Welcome to Candid Conversations with Dr. Kelsey. I'm Dr. Kelsey Changsing, physical therapist and owner of Anteater Physical Therapy and Performance. This bonus episode is a race or competition recap where I go over my experience and break down key takeaways from the event. Now let's get into today's conversation. So today I'm going to do a recap of the RAGE Sprint Triathlon, which happened on April 25th. So this was my first triathlon back since having my daughter, and this was originally scheduled last October. So I was originally supposed to do the Las Vegas Sprint Triathlon. However, it ended up being canceled because of the government shutdown, and so I was able to transfer my registration from that one to RAGE. So it seems like it would be a benefit, but I feel like even before this race, I felt like I had been more prepared last October than I was before this one. But anyway, so I've actually done RAGE before. So that was one of the benefits, is that, the Las Vegas one has pretty much a similar course, except I think the run course would have been on like this dirt road. So luckily it was on the trail, because I wasn't too happy once I found that out about the Las Vegas Triathlon. And I had found that out like the week before, so that was a little upsetting last October. But so yeah, I've done the RAGE Sprint Triathlon before. It was actually my very first one 3 years ago, and so I was definitely familiar with the course and how it would go. I did forget how hilly the run was, though. Well, besides the first hill, I did remember that first hill, but for the rest of the run on the trail, I forgot how hilly it was, or I didn't remember. But besides that, I was pretty familiar with how RAGE was going to go. So that was an advantage. But I think, so originally, like leading up to the Las Vegas Triathlon in October, like I had, again, I'd been hoping to kind of PR my time, but I had been secretly, or maybe not so secretly, hoping to also podium. But leading up to April, I don't know. I just didn't feel as prepared, but I think partially it was because like in the 2 weeks leading up to the race, like 2 weeks prior, I got sick, and then it took, which kind of turned into having like this lingering cough, and then it was taking a really long time to recover from that. But then I realized it was like I probably had some allergies because it got like really windy here, and I realized that like my eyes were also itchy in addition to like the coughing and stuff. So I'm like, and like the nose congestion, I'm like, okay, this is probably like a combination of allergies and like getting over the sickness. And I also started having some really bad tooth pain. So I ended up needing a root canal, and I was dumb and decided to postpone even though it was completely my fault, because the office, so I went in for the second consultation. Like, this root canal story is a story in and of itself. But anyway, like when I went in for like a second opinion, and they're like, oh yeah, well, you need a root canal. And then so the office had offered like, oh, like we have this day, it was like this day on Thursday, and I was like, no, like I have a race this weekend, like let's do Monday. And then so I scheduled it for Monday, but of course Thursday morning, like I wake up and I'm in even more pain. I'm like, oh no, like so because up until that point it had been managed with like normal ibuprofen and the pain, and so like I called the office again Thursday morning, and then but the spot that had been open was now taken, obviously, so, and they didn't have anything on Friday. I was like, oh shoot. So I, at that point, like I probably shouldn't, it's probably not the best thing to do, but like I still had ibuprofen 600s from my C-section 2 years ago, and so I started taking those, and those did like take the edge off the pain, at least to like function. But at least with exercising, like I think the exercise itself like distracted me from my tooth pain. So so at least I had that. So it didn't distract me from the race. But now since getting the root canal, I'm actually glad that I had it after the race, because they like put the temporary tooth back on, and that was like a little uncomfortable, just the way the temporary crown was sitting on it. And then I was able to I don't know if I would have been able to schedule like getting my permanent crowns put in place like the day after the root canal like I did this week. But anyway, so I was dealing with that. And then the 2 times I practiced open water swimming before the race, the first one, it was like really, really cold. So that was about a month ago. The water temp was like 56 degrees. So I was like, oh, it's so cold. like this is the first time I had ever swam in water where like my face was numb and like my ears were super numb. And I was like, oh my gosh, this water is so cold. And then I think 3 weeks ago, beginning of April, went back to practice open water swimming again in the lake, and the water was like the normal, like, you know, what I expect, like mid 60s. So the water temp was fine, but that day the water was like super choppy. And one of my colleagues actually, he was providing like support like on his paddleboard. He actually took a video, so hopefully he's able to give me those videos. Or I don't know, hopefully one of them was when like I was swimming but the current was going against me, because like it was so windy, like it was causing like a current, and so I was swimming and like not moving. So I don't know if he has a video of that, but that would be really funny if he does. But I did not like it. Like I had to like stop and rest and like hold on to my like swim buoy so many times during that session. And so I think that's why like leading up to the race, I was really nervous about the swim mostly. So the run is going to be the run. And I think it's just like, 'cause you can technically walk. And so I wasn't worried about the run, and I was feeling good about running anyway. For the bike, I was a little nervous, and it's just, I've been, ever since being postpartum, for some reason, I'm just like nervous about riding outside, like about falling, and I think it's because I haven't had as much practice, because before I was pregnant, I used to go on group rides on Sundays, but I haven't gone, mostly because like mentally, for some reason, it's just, I get like so much anxiety thinking about going, and like the like clipping in, and like I don't know why I'm afraid of falling so much. But like I had practiced in that same session 3 weeks ago. We practiced the actual course in Lake Mead National Park or whatever, Lake Mead Park, the bike course. And then so I was like, okay, it wasn't too bad. Like it was windy, but it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. The downhill was still a little scary, but I was like, okay, like I'm feeling a little bit better about this. And then, so the swim was the thing I was worried the most about. Also because the week leading up to the race, the week before the race, I didn't swim at all because I was sick. And then the week of the race, I tried swimming, but then it kept triggering, like breathing deeply, like was triggering my cough. And so it's like I couldn't swim more than like 25 or 50 yards without like stopping to like cough and like breathe. So I couldn't really swim. And so I feel like that affected me for the race. So I think my goals for the race before I got sick, so before the 2 weeks mark, I was like, okay, well, I think, maybe I can still get like an hour 30 minutes, maybe in like an hour 40 minutes, like hopefully I could get like maybe 15 minutes in the water. So previously, like 3 years ago, the first time I did Rage, I think it took me like 20 minutes. The swim took me 20 minutes. The bike took me about 50 minutes. And then the run took me like 38 minutes. And then I had to like walk run because I had totally underestimated like the initial hill. like it's like a whole, like, because you're running from like basically where the water line used to be and up the like access road to the lake. So like the access road is, well, like for the run it's uphill, and it's not a gradual uphill, but it's gradual enough where it doesn't seem like it's a huge hill, but it really is. Or at least, I don't know, maybe that's just me, because I was telling that to somebody else and he's like, no, it's a pretty obvious that this is a hill. I'm like, but yeah, so 3 years ago, I ended up having to walk run because I gassed myself out, like sprinting up this stupid hill, and I got really tired at the top. And then so I had to I ended up keeping company with a 75-year-old man who was like, he was just plugging along, and like I would run ahead and I'd get tired and start walking, and he'd catch up with me, and then we'd kind of be together, and then I would like, so yeah. So that was 3 years ago. And then so this year I was like, on our training, my triathlon coach had put the bike course on Ruvi, because I use Ruvi on my indoor trainer. So he'd put the bike course on there, and I'd practiced it like at least 3 times, and I couldn't get faster than like 50 minutes, but he did say that he made it harder on the indoor trainer. So I was like, okay, fine. It's like, maybe I'll be able to do it a little bit faster, because when I practiced it before October, I think I had completed it in like 40 minutes or something. So yeah, so that was before 2 weeks ago. But then after I got sick, so like, especially the week leading up to the race, I was like, you know what? I just want to get this race over with. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to, like, okay, hopefully I'll still do like the 20 minutes on the swim, the bike, like it's probably going to be about the same. And then the run, I did think that I could get like 35 minutes on the run. Like that was kind of my goal. My biggest goal was going to be like not stopping to walk. So I already had my plan was already to just walk the hill itself. But once I reached the top of the hill, like I was like, okay, then I'll start running, and I'm not going to stop to walk at all. So that was my goal for the run. And then yeah, for the swim, just wanted to get it over with, like survive the swim, not fall on the bike, and then yeah, run the whole thing except for the hill. That was the exception, because it is a pretty steep hill. So Saturday, I actually start feeling a little bit better by Friday. So Saturday, I'm still coughing a tiny bit, but not too much. And so we get there. I'm still feeling super, super nervous. It has been windy the last 2 weeks, but there's like a slight breeze. It's not super duper windy. And then I'm like, okay, before the swim, I kind of get into the water to kind of like acclimate myself, because they do let people do like a warm-up swim kind of. So I get in the water, like splash lake water on my face to kind of try to get acclimated to the cold. And I'm like, okay, I'm acclimated. All right, let's do this. But then, okay, so we go into the lake to start the race, and I don't know. I don't know if it was probably a combination of things, but it's like we're walking in, and then luckily I liked they had these runners that were really long, so they were an upgrade from like the rug that they used to have to help us like walk into the lake without having to step on so many rocks. But once the rug ends, there are like a bajillion rocks, and so we're just trying to like slowly walk in, and then like, I don't know, I kind of like fell over from like the water, and so I'm like struggling to stand up, and then they're like 30 seconds, and I'm like still like struggling to stand. I'm like trying to get a little bit further to like where the rest of the women are, and then they start the race, and so I'm like, so I start swimming, and I already knew in my head, like, so the last 2 times I've done a sprint triathlon, I like come out way too fast and I panic, and so this time I'm like, okay, trying to stay calm. Like I already sort of acclimated myself to the water, so there's no initial shock because of like the cold water, because I've already like I already did that like before the race started. So I start swimming, and then I'm doing okay, but I'm realizing I can't get a full breath. And luckily at this time, it's not because it's triggering like a cough reflex. It's more like for some reason I feel like I'm not getting enough oxygen. And so, and even though like I'm intentionally trying to be like smooth with like my swim strokes, like I'm not trying to go fast. I'm just trying to be like, okay, steady. But so like I stop a few times. I try to do like breaststroke, but they're like small strokes. Like it's not like my normal breaststroke because 3 years ago when my first triathlon, like I don't think I had done any open water swimming prior to the triathlon besides like in the ocean, but for like 5 minutes or something. And so 3 years ago, like once I realized like swimming was hard, like freestyle was difficult, then I started doing like breaststroke, and I pretty much did like breaststroke for like 75% of the race. But that was my stroke in high school when I was on the swim team, so I'm pretty proficient at it. I'm pretty fast at it. But this time, for some reason, like my head is above the water. And 3 years ago, like I was swimming above the water, and then I realized like, wait, I could put my head in the water. So like I was doing that, and then so I was faster. So this time I'm trying to do breaststroke, and I'm like not necessarily hyperventilating, but I'm definitely breathing fast and not able to, like, not super deeply. It's like shallow, fast breathing. And I'm like, okay, like I need to get my head under the water because like that's gonna be like a lot faster. And so I start trying to do that, but like I cannot hold my breath long enough to like get a good glide. Like I keep so I'm like, okay, I'll do breaststroke, try to swim freestyle again, and then and then I have to stop, and it's just like not happening, and I'm like stuck. So at this point, I don't know. I don't think I was even halfway to the first buoy. I was still like, I was far from the shore, but not even close to the first buoy. So I hadn't really gotten that far. I'm like kind of treading water, and I'm like, okay, well, just like go on your back. But for some reason, like just the thought of being on my back, just like it was like, no, not gonna happen. Like no. And I'm like I feel my wetsuit constricting me. So firstly, okay, maybe this is like the second thing. So secondly, I think it might have been like, I don't know if it's this wetsuit that is like, is too, like I know wetsuits are supposed to be like tight, like you're supposed to feel like a sausage in it, but I don't know if mine is like too tight, because the one I used and RAGE 3 years ago was my friend's husband's old wetsuit, so it was like a little bit too big for me. So I think it's like a men's medium long or something. And then so after that triathlon, I got a men's small, I think, long wetsuit secondhand, and so that's the one I used for my second triathlon. And I had a similar problem where I felt like I couldn't breathe. So I don't know if it's the wetsuit. But yeah, so I'm kind of like treading water, and I'm just like stuck. Like I'm like trying to move forward. At least I'm like trying to move forward. I'm like, I'm not trying to go backwards, but like I'm trying to move forward, but I'm like, it's not. I'm like stuck, and then I'm like kind of turning around and looking around for where the kayaks are. And then by this point, the last wave had started. So like the beginners had started, beginner triathletes, and so they're like starting to catch up to us, or to me, because everyone from my wave is like already past me. And like one of the ladies is like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Because I really was just kind of like almost panicking. And then so I'm like, none of the kayaks were on this side yet. And so I'm like, okay, like, I'm just gonna like keep my head above the water and like slowly like kick my way. So yeah, I start kicking my way towards the buoy, which is where one of the other kayaks was. And I forgot to mention, so it was a little windy. So the water was not choppy. The temperature was like what I expected it to be. It was like 60 something. upper 60s, I think. So it wasn't like overly cold compared to like, being in the 50s. But there were these like swells. So they were gentle swells though. So that's why I'm like, I don't know why it freaked me out, but maybe it's just like the sensation of like going up and down or something. I don't know. Because it's not like when it's choppy and like, so when the water is choppy and then like you're trying to take a breath, it like the water like goes in your face or whatever. Like these swells were gentle enough that like they weren't going to splash in your face when you're trying to take a breath, but it did like, kind of pick you up. So I think I think it was a combination of like the being sick and like not having a good like open water training session before, and then maybe the wetsuit. I don't know. Maybe I just keep trying to blame this wetsuit. And then the swells, like the gentle swells, just kind of like made me freak out. And so it was terrible. I was like, wow, this swim is so bad. And so yeah, I used to start like trying to make my way towards the buoy because and then the kayak. So somebody is resting on like the the float behind the kayak, and then I don't remember how many times. I'm pretty sure I stopped. I know I stopped at least twice. I think I might have stopped 3 times. So there was a kayak by the first buoy, and then there was another kayak kind of in between that had gone to a swimmer. So yeah, so like now I don't remember, but like I'm trying to, and then I think it was the same kayak by the buoy that, so once the swimmer that was on the float like decides to continue, I start like, they're scanning, making sure we're okay. So I start like trying to like wave my hand, still kind of like doggy paddling basically, and like waving my hand. So like they come over, and so I'm able to rest on the float. Yeah, I feel like that's what it was. No, because I did wave, but there was like another, so I think that's the second time. I think the first time I rested, there was another kayak and that I was passing, and then because there was already somebody on the float, and then a second person came to the float, and then I was like, okay, I'm not going to make it to the one by the buoy, so I'm just going to come on over. And I'm like, is there room for a third person? And then she's like, yeah. And then so there's 3 of us clinging to this float, the lifeguard float on the kayak. And then so there's a woman and a man, and then so the kayak person calls over one of the jet skis because there's 3 of us, so like, to help like kind of spread us out, but then at that point the man is like, you could take me back. And I was like, oh, that sucks, man, but like I understand. So yeah, so I don't know what he ended up doing. I don't know if he like, because it's a DNF, so I don't know if he still like did the bike and the swim, or but yeah, so he goes back to shore with the jet ski, and then it's just the woman and me, and so we kind of rest, and then I'm able to kind of like catch my breath, calm down a little bit, and then start swimming. And then and then I think that's when I swim to the next kayak, which was kind of by the buoy, and then I rest again, and then, but I was by myself, and then so go around the buoy, make my way to around the second buoy. So by now I'm able to kind of between the 2 buoys, so I'm able to do regular freestyle at this point. But then I start noticing like every time I take a breath, like I'm not wheezing, but it's like you can hear my lungs making a noise every time I take a breath. And so so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to rest again. So I'm able to like do a combination of freestyle and breaststroke. The breaststroke is still not like efficient like it was 3 years ago. Like my normal breaststroke is still like half short. So it's not as short as like the beginning of this swim, but it's like still like half as efficient. Get around the second buoy, rest on another kayak on a float, cough my lung out. Because there was, so as I'm resting, like it was actually the same woman that was on the other float, ends up resting on that float again. So I'm like, it's like, oh, we meet again. But so we're both resting, and then like I start coughing. And it's like the type of cough where, because it had happened to me before, like on land, not the same day, but like a few days before, where like I'm coughing so hard, it's like I'm almost going to like throw up, so to speak. So I'm like coughing. And then I wonder what that lady was thinking, the swimmer, and the kayaker was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I'm like, okay, cough, cough, cough. And then finally able to breathe. And I'm like, okay, breathing normally again. And then from there, I'm able to swim all the way back to shore. And by that point, oh my gosh, by that point, I'm able to like do the normal swimming. So freestyle, I don't have to do breaststroke at all, except, you know, there were a couple times where I'm like, okay, where am I? Just to reorient myself. But like for the most part, I'm able to do freestyle all the way back. But yeah, that was the worst swim in my entire life. And I am also counting like just swim meets, and I mean, I guess this is only like the third race I've ever done open water swimming for, but I have never felt like that before in my entire, like ever since becoming like a proficient swimmer, I have never felt that helpless in my entire life, like in the water. Because before I was always like, well, you know, like I will just like float on my back or whatever. Like, you know, I can tread water for a little bit, but like the backup is always like being able to float on your back. And the fact that I could not do that because I was just like panicking, like the thought of it was making me so nervous. For some reason, I have no idea why. Yeah, it was not great. So yeah, I don't know. I'll talk, I'm a little bit nervous about Chicago, but I'll talk about that at the end. So yeah, so that was a swim. Before the race, so one of my friends and my husband was coming, so my husband was coming with my daughter, and then one of my friends was also coming to watch. And so I wasn't able to see them before the race started. It turns out that for my husband, they had gotten there on time. However, apparently my daughter had thrown up in the car, unfortunately, and so he had to spend like, you know, quite some time trying to clean her up. And then of course, you know, like I feel like there's probably some sort of like baby law where it's like you're gonna have the extra pair of clothes until the one day that you actually need it, you don't have the extra pair of clothes. So yeah, he didn't have the extra pair of clothes, but I was able to see my friend and my husband and my daughter when I got out of the water. So I was so happy when I saw them, because that swim was so terrible. Like I felt so bad about myself, because at that point I knew my race is over, in the sense that like I definitely was not going to podium, was what my thought was after that swim. So, and then another one, my coach's colleague was there, and he was like helping me with my shoes to like walk up the dirt road. So he was also very, very helpful. So I'm very grateful for him. I forgot what his name was, but I was very grateful for him, but as well. But yeah, my husband was able to walk with me all the way up to the T1. So the benefit of having a terrible swim and thinking that there's no way I can get on the podium is that it put less pressure on me. So like getting out of my wetsuit, usually I struggle so badly, but I think this time like my transition was so smooth. Like I was able to get the wetsuit off okay. I got all my stuff, and I think so I don't know where they count the transition, but according to the timestamps that they have for us, or the splits, I was like, that's not the right word. The splits that they have for us from the race, the swim took 28 minutes and 52 seconds, so basically almost 29 minutes. I think they count T1 from when we get out of the water, because I think I remember seeing a thing that we walk over. But we still have to kind of walk up the embankment because the water level in Lake Mead is so low. So, I mean, that takes, I don't know how long that takes, like at least a minute. And I couldn't jog, so I was like literally just walking this time to catch my breath and stuff and throw a mini pity party. But T1, even with that walk, it only took me 4 minutes and 47 seconds. So I don't know what it was 3 years ago. I don't have, I guess I could look up what it was 3 years ago. But I'm pretty sure it was like 7 minutes 3 years ago. Oh, here it is. Oh, no, it was also 4 minutes. So I don't, okay. So 3 years ago, I finished the swim in 20 minutes and 31 seconds. And this time it took 8 more minutes. And then my T1 was only like 20 seconds slower this time from walking up instead of jogging up the embankment. But I do remember 3 years ago, I was like panicking and got stuck in my wetsuit and stuff. So yeah. So then I start on the bike. So I started on the bike, and the bike went pretty well, actually. So I felt really, really confident on the bike. So 3 years ago, I struggled a lot with the gears, and like knowing like when to switch, like big ring, little ring. I would get confused, like which way going, like, you know, going up and down with the gear. So I would like gear one way and be like, oh no, I meant to go the other way, so I'd go the other way. And then yeah, I didn't know how to pedal on the downhills. Well, firstly, it was kind of scary, so sometimes I would just like coast downhill instead of pedal on the like pedalable, I don't know what you call it, downhill portions, like the less steep downhill, gradual downhill portions, and then on like the steepest part, so it's at the turnaround that it's kind of the steepest part. Like I sat on the brakes the entire time because it was so scary. Like you go so fast. So that was 3 years ago. So this time I have a better concept, a better grasp on gearing. And so, yeah, I'm able to make it up the big hill. And then also 3 years ago, I wasn't able to, I wasn't confident enough to like drink water while I was on the bike. However, 3 years ago, my bike was also not fit for me. And what I found out after I got my bike fit was that the handlebars were like way too wide. And so it just made it really difficult to control the bike. Or it was one of the reasons why I had such a hard time controlling the bike and stuff. So yeah, this time it felt great. I was able to drink water, but I actually dropped my water bottle while trying to put it back. So it was actually like across right before the water station so the water station was on the other side, like on the way back. But yeah, so yeah, I was trying to put my water bottle back, and then I don't know why I let go of it before I knew if it was in the water cage, but I dropped it. But I wasn't going to stop, so I was like, oh shoot. And I was like, well, I lost my water bottle. I did see it on the way back because it's an out and back course. On the way back, I did see where it had rolled, and I was like, well, it's someone else's water bottle now, I guess, if they want to pick it up. But yeah, I probably shouldn't mention this, but I guess I littered in a national park unintentionally. But yeah, and then so you know, like I mentioned earlier, 3 weeks ago, like it was really, really scary going on the downhill. But this time I don't think I really braked at all, and so I felt like pretty confident being in like, I was even in kind of a little bit more of an aero position to kind of try to. It was mostly because, so at that point it started being a little bit more windy, so I did kind of feel the wind like pushing my bike, and then I couldn't really remember what you're supposed to do with wind. Like, you know, you like angle your bike or whatever. I did kind of naturally like try to angle my bike into the wind. So I don't know if I'll have to look it up. But so yeah, it's like I try to be a little bit in more of an arrow position, so that there was less, you know, like wind resistance. Because I figured like if I'm more upright, like, and the wind is gonna like have more of a chance of pushing me over. So yeah, I was in more of an arrow position, so I was able to go like I actually went down the hills really fast, and yeah, bike was really good. It was only until like towards the end where there were a couple times where like I got stuck because like so I wanted to pass the person in front of me, but then somebody else was passing me, so like I waited for them, but then they didn't really pass the person in front of me, so then and then there was like a car, so because it's not a closed course since we're in like a national park, so there's still cars. So there was a car, and so I got stuck, and then there was also people like riding in the roadways, so I did have to yell out like 3 times like car, like to get people like go on the side so that the car could pass. So I feel like I could have gotten even faster, but that's okay. You know, like a minute or two, whatever. But so I finished the bike in 53 minutes and 42 seconds. And actually, so I thought I finished it in 50 minutes last time, but actually last time it took me 56 minutes, and 56 minutes and 2 seconds. But also last time, because I couldn't drink water while on the bike, I had to stop on the side of the road to drink water, and then keep going. So, I think I ended up stopping twice. So last time, so this time I didn't have to stop at all. And then, yeah, I was 3 minutes faster, even though it was windy and stuff. So yeah, get back and transition. My legs were a little wobbly, especially my glutes. But I think T1 or T2. So last time it took 1 minute 32 seconds. This time it took me 1 minute 50 seconds. But I was kind of like talking to my husband, and then my daughter was like, "Mama," and I was like, "Oh no." But yeah, so T2, you know, I was a few seconds slower, and then, but yeah, the run, I initially I walked off, so I kind of jogged around, and then it starts the uphill. So I walked for a little bit, let my legs kind of try to reset, or reset so they're a little less jelly. And then I kind of tried jogging a little bit, but I was like, this hill is like too steep. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to walk up the hill. So as soon as I walked all the way up to the top of the hill, then I started jogging. So luckily, well, sort of luckily. So once you get to the top of the hill and start on the trail, because the course is like, the uphill is part of the course, luckily. So, but once you get onto the actual trail, it starts in a little bit of a decline first. So in the beginning, it was fine because then it's like, it allowed me to kind of get my legs under me to start running. But then in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be an uphill on the way back. But luckily, after that uphill, it's like basically downhill. So, so yeah, I go on the run and I'm able to complete the run without stopping, basically. I did, after one of the water stations, I did like walk a little bit to drink water. I brought electrolytes with me, so I had my water bottle, but it only had electrolytes in it, and I wanted like actual water, so I did get water from the water stations twice. But for the most part, I only had to like stop that one time stop-ish, like walk. But for the most part, I like ran the whole thing, which was really good. After that first initial hill, which was what my goal was. And so I completed that in 38 minutes and 19 seconds. And 3 years ago, it was 37 minutes and 56, or 37 minutes and 56 seconds. Yeah. So I guess it was a little bit slower this time, even though I ran the whole thing. But yeah, that one, well, I felt better. So that's the consolation. I sort of felt better. I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, the run was a run. So I found out it was actually the person who got second on the podium, but there was another person in my age group. She was like so enthusiastic. She would be like, "Whoa, yeah, go people!" And then like, and then at some point she was talking. I mean, she was very, very nice, and like it was very encouraging to hear her. But when she started talking to me, I was like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I didn't tell her this. But in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm like, I don't have the energy to be talking right now. But she ended up passing me, so it was fine. But I kind of realized after that I had actually passed her on the bike. But yeah, so I finished the run, finished the race. And so 3 years ago, my husband didn't realize that the finish line was not where the transition area was. And so he wasn't there at the finish 3 years ago. And this year, so he knew that the finish line was separate from the transition, but then because of the whole thing with our daughter throwing up, he forgot. So he wasn't there again. And because I thought about it on the bike, because, it was like 50 minutes. So like you have time to think about things. But then once we got to the transition, I completely forgot to tell him that it's like, oh, remember that the finish line's up there. I was like, or maybe I remembered on the run, probably both. But I was like, oh, maybe he'll remember. And then, but yeah, he did not. So yeah, I finished the race, and normally at the ends they have like this little machine that you put in your bib number, and it prints out like a little receipt thing that has like your splits and your overall time, and if you got like what place you got in your age group, or overall if you're if you got on the podium for overall. But they didn't have that. They just had like these QR codes, and I'm like, I don't have my phone. Like, who has their phone while they're racing? Because there's like no reason to have your phone while you're racing. So I was just like, and then I didn't see, I mean, I guess I could have looked for my colleagues, but I don't know, I didn't see them. So I was like, I'm just going to go back, because at that point I was like, there's no way I made it onto the podium, like the age group podium. So I didn't, they did have like a big screen, but then like I didn't try to like look on there what my placing was. So I walk all the way back to the transition area to get all my stuff. And like, this is like a mile away, or like a little under a mile away. So on the way back down, I meet my husband, who's walking up, because he was like, oh yeah, I forgot. And like, I remembered. But then like, I figured you'd be done by now. So yeah, like we're talking, like I'm putting my stuff away. And then, so, on the way back, or on the drive back, I'm like, I tried looking up, because before they usually put like a link on the race website, like for the results, but it wasn't on by now I have my phone, and it wasn't on the website either. So I was like, okay, I know I want to know what my time is, because I actually like screwed up my watch. I didn't realize like the triathlon setting on my watch was set to hold to move on to the next like thing. So I'd been pressing the correct button, but then because it had been set to hold, like I was supposed to hold it. And like I've changed the setting now, so now it's on the correct setting, but to just press it. But so this whole time I'm pushing the button correctly, but it's not moving on to, so I don't know what it thought I was doing. But so it was stuck on open water swim for the entire race. So it said like 16-mile open water swim. I realized it during the run, because I was like, So the girl that was the woman that was next to me, like the enthusiastic woman, she was like, "Where's the turnaround?" And then like I tried to look on my watch to like let her know, but like it wasn't telling me what the splits. It was like really confusing. I didn't realize it then, but I was like, "Why is it saying my split is like an hour and whatever?" Like this does not make sense. It was because it thought I was still swimming. So I wanted to know what my actual splits were, because I knew my time was like around 2 hours and 7-ish minutes, but I wanted to know what my splits were. So as I'm driving back up, as I'm driving out, I stop by again to scan the stupid QR code. And then come to find out, I actually got third in my age group. So I missed my award ceremony. So my overall time was 2 hours, 7 minutes, and 30 seconds. And the person who got second, she was only like, so she got 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 55 seconds. So what's that, like a little over 95 seconds. So I feel like if I had passed her earlier on the bike, maybe I would have gotten second. I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, I was like, oh shoot. Because it was like, especially because they said they would do the podium or the award ceremony for the sprint 2 hours after start time. So I knew I got over 2 hours. So that's why I was like, okay, yeah, I totally didn't get the podium. But come to find out. So I found my colleagues from Carbs Coffee Chaos social group, social group, and they're talking, and I'm like telling them like, oh my gosh, so I found them before I got my results, and they're like, yeah, didn't you get an award? I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I didn't. Because my swim was so bad. And then they're like, no, I'm pretty sure you did. And then so when I came back from getting my results, I was like, you guys, you're right, I got third in my age group. And then so one of them was like, well, go get your award and then we'll take a picture. So because they were still waiting for the Olympic distance group to do the next set of awards. So the woman was like, oh my gosh, I called your name like 5 times. And then I think because my colleague was like, oh, didn't you guys do the thing early? And she's like, no, we did it late. And I think because they were waiting for me because I was like, more than 2 hours after. So they had to wait for like the third person to go, to come in, which was me, which had been me. So yeah, at least I still got my award, which is like this cool little coaster. And I was able to take a picture, standing on the third place podium. But yeah, it totally did not occur to me until like that moment. I was like, because my husband was saying a lot of other people had been complaining about the swim. So it hadn't occurred to me that like, yeah, I was affected by the swim, but like so was everyone else. And so so kind of looking at the times, like a lot of people's swims were actually a little slower. So yeah, so I guess I was a little self-centered for my own race. But I mean like it's good because then you kind of just have to think about your own race and not everyone else. But at the same time, yeah, so it's just like a really funny story that like I actually did podium in my age group, but I didn't think I did. So I did terrible on the swim, but I think I ended up catching up in the bike, and even like the person that was next to me in the transition area, I guess I had passed her on the bike on the uphill, and she said like it was impressive seeing how fast I was going up the hill on my bike. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. At least I did. At least there was something that went well for me. It's like, well, I did terrible on the swim, but at least I did great on the bike. But yeah, so I think it's probably better this way because I I was kind of like envisioning being able to be on the podium and like holding my daughter and being able to have a picture and be like, yeah, I'm a new mom, and then I did great. And so I guess it was better that I missed my award ceremony, because my daughter wouldn't have been there because my husband forgot and I was still at the transition area. But yeah, so that was my race weekend. That's what happened at my race. So pretty eventful, but it's like I want to say it didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I still podiumed. So it's like, I don't know. The swim definitely didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I definitely, like, the bike felt great. Like I am pretty happy with how the bike went. Especially because of how nervous I was about being on the bike, and like with like, it's not a closed course. So but I felt so confident on the bike, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I do credit my triathlon coach, Naven, for that, for helping me with that. So, and I mean, like, the swim part, that's all me. Like, it's, I feel like if the race had been 2 weeks before, the swim part would have gone, well, actually, I think it was like really windy that weekend. So there's that. But if it was the same weather just 2 weeks earlier, like before I got sick, I feel like the swim wouldn't have been as bad as it was. Like, I feel like I would have been able to get through the swim and not panic, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I still would have panicked, because if my wetsuit really is the problem, maybe I still would have panicked. But yeah. So next race is going to be Chicago Triathlon. I'm doing the Olympic distance, my first time doing an Olympic distance. And I am so nervous about it. I am kind of regretting it, signing up for it, but because I'm like, oh my gosh, this swim is twice as long. Like, I don't know. Oh my gosh. But I think since it's going to be the summer, there will be more chances to go to Lake Mead and practice open water swimming. So I feel like that's going to help. And my running, I haven't necessarily been getting faster with running, but I've been feeling better after runs. And so that's a huge thing. So I think my runs will be okay. And then yesterday, Naven put the Chicago course, at least whatever they have online, that he put the course on Ruvi for me so that I can at least go through it. And I was scared at first because in the description it does say stuff about hills, but like there's like barely any hills, because I'm like, it's downtown Chicago, so like where are the hills? So yeah, the course should be okay. So the bike course should be okay, the run should be okay, the swim, I'm gonna have to work on the open water swimming. So yeah, I don't know. I'm like going back and forth about being excited but also like scared. So yeah, I'll be back. So that's my next race. I don't think I have anything until then. I don't have anything planned. I mean, I guess I have Murph, but I'm not going to do a recap on that. Murph is just Murph. So Memorial Day Murph. So yeah. I guess this is the last bonus episode until my recap of the Chicago Triathlon. So hopefully you enjoy this bonus episode. It ended up being super long because I ended up talking like about the swim for like half an hour. But yeah, hopefully you found this entertaining, and I will see you in the next conversation.